Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Am I Doing This Wrong? Same gals here, Morgan and Ryann, back for another week, another topic. And instead of our check-in, we have something exciting to share. We got our first story from, should we say listener, audience?
Yeah, from an audience member.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got our first story from an audience member. So exciting, so funny, so appreciative that she was willing to share. It was really funny. Ryan and I were cracking up. Basically, to sum it up, she received an unsolicited dick pic, and this was a callback to our Does Size Matter and Red Flag episode. Unsolicited dick pic, I would say, is a red flag, right? What do we think?
Yeah, it's a red flag for sure. Going ahead with the story, honestly, this connects to so many of our past episodes.
It really does. We could tie it into a lot. That's really true. But, it was a brag about size, and the dick pic was a dick next to a ruler. And it was just evidence that the brag was bigger than the truth. So, yeah.
And the funniest part was that apparently this person sent it to multiple people. So in my eyes, I was like, was this person like surveying the size of their dick? You know what I mean? Like, because it wasn't the size that they said it was. So I was like, I didn't understand. It was like a I can't think of the word, but like it was like an inaccurate catfish. You know what I mean? Like it didn't serve the purpose, like I was like, why? I just didn't get it. I was very confused on why you would send it to multiple people saying that it was one size, but then showing the ruler, letting everyone know that it's not that size. It was very confusing.
It was very confusing. And like, you could get an angle, you could do like a MySpace angle. You know what I mean? Like you could make it look, you could find good lighting or like a good shadow, like tip the camera a little bit and make it look like it was 10 inches. Instead, you sent a picture with it next to a ruler.
Yeah.
And the reason we know this, guys, is because we got the picture in our email.
We saw
it. Again, to Sue, we say thank you because our first listener story included a dick pic. And I feel like we are reaching the people that we want to reach. This is our community that we are trying to build.
Yes, exactly. If you or a friend has ever shared a dick pic, right? Or ever, sat around the campfire and commiserated on unsolicited dick pics, you're our audience. We want you, right?
Yeah. Come hang with us.
Come hang with us. You get it.
Yes, exactly.
Sue, we want you. Come hang with us, Sue. Thanks for watching on YouTube. We really appreciate it.
Yes, big thank you. And to anyone else who wants to share, we do have our listener email up and running. So if you guys want to reach out, share your stories. If you want your stories shared with others, definitely send us an email at wrongthepodcast@gmail.com. And with that, let's get into today's episode.
Yeah, let's dive in.
So I know we sometimes forget our disclaimer, but I made a reminder for myself. So just so everyone knows who is maybe new, we are not doctors. We are not experts. We are just two friends trying to figure out the world and adulthood. So with that being said, today we are talking about diet culture. So I know, big one, rough one. Lot of feelings. So
yes, but can we just start with saying fuck the patriarchy? There's a lot of wild back shit. What do you call it? What's it? The word.
Backwards?
There's a lot of backwards. Yeah.
back ass, back shit.
Back ass, the ass is already in the back. There's a lot of backwards ass shit going on right now in our world. And so before we dive into such, a complex issue, we need to realize that a lot of this shit is because, we have a lot of the values that we've had for a lot of years that have just like really is still pervasive in our society. And so, yeah, before diving into diet culture, just realize that you can reject all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, my body, my choice. There's a lot going on politically right now that is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
And just so in case it wasn't clear where we stand.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what is diet culture? All right. So, I found a lot of details in one article, and like always, we'll have our resources in the show notes if you guys are interested in looking more at where we got a lot of the information. But what is diet culture? So, diet culture is the pervasive belief that appearance and body shape are more important than physical, psychological, and general well-being. It's the idea that controlling your body, particularly your diet, by limiting what and how much you eat is normal. Okay. So diet culture also normalizes labeling food as good or bad and thinking of food as transactional, something that you either earn or don't deserve depending on how you've eaten and worked out. So not only is food labeled, but people may label themselves as good or bad for consuming these foods. I know, it all just like hits so deep.
No, hurts my heart.
I know. It goes on to say people who have been conditioned to accept diet culture as a normal way of life may have poor self-image, regularly participate in negative self-talk, and believe that being thin makes a person better than someone who is not. They may also have an all or nothing mentality.
What does that mean? Like all or nothing? Like I've heard that phrase, but I don't think I actually like I know what it means, but like I couldn't explain it.
So I think in this context, it's saying all or nothing, like, okay, instead of saying like, oh, I can't have those fries for lunch. I can't have those fries because that is a bad food. Right. And so if you had those fries for lunch, just think, okay, maybe like I'll have like salmon and vegetables for dinner. Like it's like you're thinking like those fries are the bad thing. And so I've just ruined my whole day because I ate those fries instead of thinking like, let me just balance my diet by eating what I'm craving and listening to what my body wants and trying to make good choices and eat healthy, like delicious food.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. If you can't tell, I'm not great at diets. So I'm like, what is this? What is this terminology? Let's get through it. Okay.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about some ways that diet culture can manifest in how people think about food and their health in general. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first one is diet culture and disordered eating. And just like another disclaimer on our disclaimer, diet culture is one factor that contributes to disordered eating. This isn't it can be like it can be a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to generalize and just say this is the only thing. I just want to make a point of that.
Right.
So this generally occurs from a lack of focus on nutrition while prioritizing low-calorie food. It can also affect how someone views exercise, since activity can be viewed as a way to work off so-called bad foods or used as a way to earn food.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. So it goes on to say the idea that food is only fuel and must be earned is a toxic notion that can create disordered eating and eating disorders. Food is much more than fuel. It is a social and cultural part of our lives. Solely focusing on food as fuel or good versus bad isolates you from enjoying and embracing food as a deeper and more meaningful part of your life. So I agree with this, like, totally. Food is like an experience for me. Like, I mean, I try not to eat like fast food. You know, I'm older now. It just doesn't agree with my body the way it used to when I was in high school. Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. It's not because I don't like it anymore.
Right, exactly. Like, but when I go to a new place, or like, I guess mostly just when I'm traveling, like, I want to try new food. I'm excited. I look up like different cuisines to try, like staples of that region, that place, that city, you know. I don't know. Food is like an experience. And
oh yeah,
I definitely look at it that way.
Oh yeah, and that's why, I think the term diet culture is really appropriate, because food is a huge part of culture.
Yeah.
Most cultures center their gatherings and their, events around the type of food that will be served. And so when you have this kind of like tumultuous relationship with food, it affects everything in your life, especially coming from certain cultures, right? I will say, like, the more like white American culture is a little bit different. Like, the relationship with food is very different, because I do feel like diet culture is a lot more pervasive in this, like, in the society that we live in America. However, when you do visit, different countries or different cultures, and you go to their food, or you go to their house, food is really used to show how much you love that person, how much you care for the people around you, right? Whereas I know when I've went to just like friends' house that are, typically American white, that's not really the way food is viewed. It's viewed as just, sustenance, we're just going to have dinner and then move along with our day. Versus going to some of my, more cultured friends' houses, it's a way to show where their mom grew up, right?
Yeah.
What their dad experienced, going to, the family's house when they were young, right? What they ate on summer vacations, right? Versus what they eat during the holidays. Like, it has a lot of deep ties to the culture. And so living in that, right? Living in American society, but also having like cultural ties to food, is almost like being in direct conflict with your own culture. It's very confusing. So this is interesting.
Yeah. No, that's a good way of putting it. So it goes on to say that this effect is often seen after a major holiday, when advertisements and articles push for detoxes or cleanses to reset or purge your body of bad food choices, which everyone's New Year's resolution is to lose weight. I.e., see our New Year's resolution.
I mean, like, even the word detox, I didn't even realize how toxic of a word that is, honestly, until like somebody brought it to my attention. Like, they were just like, what do you mean detox? Because I had bought like a juice from like, some like juice place or whatever. And it's called, like the detox, right? Or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, this one's really good, and it makes me feel better, I was like, and it's supposed to like, get rid of toxins. And it's just like, that's not how toxins work. Like, if it were that simple, everyone would just eat the fast food and then go detox their body.
Right. And then drink the juice. Yeah.
And then drink the juice. Right.
Right.
And so it just goes to show that like, that is a very toxic way to look at, food, because it's like, you're thinking that, oh yeah, you need to like get rid of everything in your body. Like, that's just not the way bodies work. Like, a juice is not going to get rid of all the red meat that you ate over some, over the holiday vacation, that's not the way your body processes things. So interesting. Yeah.
So one time I tried to do the Beyonce lemonade, with the cayenne pepper, Beyonce lemonade, like detox.
Oh, I thought you meant the lemonade video. It's like, what were you like on a car?
No, there's like, it's all over the internet, but like, it's a cleanse where you just drink lemonade. It doesn't have sugar in it, I don't think, or like it has pure maple syrup. I don't know exactly. I can't remember. But, and I could have misread this, but this is like a very embarrassing story. So I thought, and maybe it does say this, but you're supposed to drink like 2 liters of salt water before you do it. So the night before, I drank only 1 liter of salt water because I couldn't get it down. My body was like rejecting it, but I drank it. I like stood in the kitchen and forced myself to drink all this salt water. I woke up and I was so swollen. My eyelids were swollen. My fingers, I couldn't bend my fingers. I had so much sodium in my body. I'm so surprised I didn't give myself like high blood pressure. Like,
oh my gosh. Is that really? Yeah, maybe you misread it.
I don't know. I'll have to look back. I'm sure I misread it. That can't be right. Beyonce can't be drinking 2 liters of salt water. But that's what I did. And it was so embarrassing. And oh my God, I was chugging water that whole day, like trying to get this salt out of my system.
Yeah.
So dumb.
That's so rough, Morgan. And I'm sure you didn't follow through the rest of the diet.
Absolutely not. I was like, I need to go to the hospital, I think. I don't know what's happening. Like, it was terrible. No, I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll quickly share, since on the topic of Beyonce, I did right before we went to Cabo, right before we went to Mexico, which was such a good trip. But right before that, I did the Jlo diet. And so it's like no carbs, no sugar, and something. Oh, and no alcohol. So no carbs, no sugar, no alcohol. I think there's like one more thing, but maybe not. Oh, and like no dairy, something like that.
Okay.
And so, so I was like, cool, dairy, I don't need anyway. I'm not great with it. Sugar, I could always cut back, stop having cookies at night, whatever. But what's the other one? Oh, no carbs, right? Of course, that's the hard hitter. Yeah. So I'm like eating, like my little like bird food every day, whatever. And for the first 3 days, it's always the first 3 days are really tough, but by day 4 and 5, I was like, I felt good, but you're only supposed to do it for 2 weeks. And then you have to like reset and then do it again, like, whatever. So the first week goes by and I'm like, okay, I can do this. When I tell you day 8 comes and I felt like death. Like I was like, I think I'm only losing weight in like my clavicles, because I just felt like so weird and like just drained. Yeah. I was like, I can't work out and do this diet. Like this seems impossible. Also, maybe Jlo doesn't have the same, teaching duties that I had at the time. But I was like, I can't chase after 200 freaking high school students all day and then go home and work out while also not eating anything of substance. Like it was just such a wild time. And it was effective, again, effective is subjective. Let me not say that. It was effective for the 2 weeks. And then I ate like a regular person and probably gained it all back. So.
Right. And then we went to an all-inclusive hotel with an endless buffet. And endless margaritas or palomas.
Tres palomas.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so we've both been there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is diet culture as an unhealthy obsession. So trying to rigidly stick to consuming only foods deemed as good, as virtuous as it sounds, can be considered an eating disorder called orthorexia. So orthorexia is considered an extreme form of clean eating, an obsessive focus on what the person believes to be the correct healthy diet. This obsession leads to interference with everyday life, including social, emotional, etc.
I've never heard of that. That's a new term.
Yeah, this was new. And so some characteristics of orthorexia include a restrictive diet, rituals based around eating, and avoidance of foods not considered good or healthy. So I think being conscientious of what you eat isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like it said, when it interferes with like your social life, your emotional, like we were talking about, like food being a part of culture, being an experience that you should enjoy. If you aren't feeling those things, then you might fall into this category.
I feel like I've met a few people, throughout my life that have somewhat of this type of situation where they look at the calorie content when we go to like a drive-through. Like it's drive-through. I know it's not going to be good. You know what I mean? So I don't, and I have met people that are like, oh, that's only, 500 calories. Like, that's okay. And I never realized until my sister was actually on a diet plan that used like an app where you put in all your calories and everything that you're eating every day. I had never even thought about food that way, which I guess is a good thing. It's really sad actually that how many young people, kind of internalize that and are like, okay, I need to count everything I do every day. No shame. I'm just saying it can be that obsession that ends up, being really detrimental because it kind of, like you said, it impedes on everything you do, right? Like, I can't go to that restaurant, or if I go to that restaurant, I can only eat this. And it's just kind of this thing that's like playing in your mind constantly, which is scary. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. So orthorexia can lead to other disorders such as anorexia nervosa and obsessive compulsive disorders, including body dysmorphic disorder, and eating disorders, as well as disordered eating behavior, can result directly from the poor body image that occurs due to diet culture and the glorification of thinness.
Yeah, it's the goal, the end goal there, right? That's like the thinness part, because if you've met, anybody that is a thin person, especially like, in your later adult years, it typically, yes, you can work on it and like get there based on, working out and eating right, all those things, right? But some people are just naturally thin. It's not something that they actually worked on. And that was something that I really had to change in my mind growing up, because I didn't realize that, like I didn't realize that some of the weight issues or just weight that you have is not really based on what you're eating. It's just the way that your body is made up. That's it. But it makes it really hard, because then when you go to the doctor or something, or go for your physical, it's like, yeah, you're fine, you're healthy, your blood pressure's fine, all these things are great, but you are overweight. And it's just kind of this mind fuck, because you're like, wait, like how does this work? Because my friend just happens to be a thin person, so that makes them just healthier than me. Like, what? It's weird.
Yeah, it is. And we'll talk about it a little bit here.
Okay.
But the last one from this article talks about diet culture and body image. So diet culture belief systems view thinness as equal to health, like Ryan was just saying, and send the message that body types outside of a narrow range are considered unhealthy. So while losing weight can sometimes be a healthy choice, the methods used to obtain weight loss are not always healthy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So news stories and social media often glamorize celebrity weight loss stories without questioning whether the methods used were healthy or sustainable.
Yep.
This practice creates the idea that thinness and the pursuit of weight loss is the path towards acceptance, happiness, and health.
Right, exactly. That if you get to this goal weight, things will just be better.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So bodies that fall outside the range of the thin accepted norm can absolutely be healthy. Appearance does not provide a comprehensive picture of an individual's health. A poor diet and lack of exercise lead to increased health risks, regardless of body size.
Right. Definitely.
So, yeah. And again, we're not doctors, guys. This is just information we found. We want to have a discussion about this. I feel like when we talk about like these topics that are a little bit like regarding health and things like that, like I just want to make sure we're clear that we're just having a conversation.
Right.
The fact that diet culture can weigh so heavy on people is why we want to talk about it. Like Ryann and I are not small girls. Like I've been thick since I hit puberty, like just hips for days. Yeah, it's just a lot. And it has been like a huge point of contention in my life, And so right now I just want to pose a question, like, how did we used to think about our own body image? Like how, Ryann, if you want to go, like how how did you used to think when you were younger about body image, about yourself?
Yeah, I think, looking back is always, it's tough to look back because now I realize how ridiculous the things that I used to think. But I know in high school, I did never really obsess over diet culture. It wasn't that. I know sometimes with like, I was in some athletics, which you wouldn't know looking at me now, but I was in track and field. And why I say that as a joke, but really like I've always been curvy, like, all through after puberty, like I was always curvy. And I remember that change because it went from being able to wear very small sizes to like nothing, quote unquote, nothing fitting me. Right. That's how I felt back then.
Yeah.
Which really was like, I just went up a size or something.
Right.
But, and so I just remember not obsessing over diet culture, but really obsessing over, is my weight comparable to the people that I'm around, right? So that just goes to show you that it's all subjective. It just depends on who you're around. Because when I was hanging out with like thinner people who just happen to be thinner, and tend to still be thinner in their adult life, I felt very inadequate. Like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Like, we're doing the same workouts, we do the same sports. Like, what am I doing that's not working? But then when I get into my adult life, I started hanging out with people that tended to be a little bit thicker. Me, Morgan, Jose, like we are by no means like the thin people when you think about what thinness is, right? We all have curves of some sort. And I started to accentuate those. Like, I was like, but I like this. Like, I think it looks good. I don't think I still had self-confidence about my image, but I did know that it was something desired, And so I think that's also the part that was kind of conflicting, because it was the responses that I was getting from other people, right? Other people were telling me that it looked good. Did I believe it for myself? No, not really. Like, right. It took me going up multiple sizes to be like, I actually just think that this is the way my body looks. Like, I just think I'm never going to have that idea. And I do remember one time I went to the doctor when I was in my 20s, and they mentioned something about me being overweight. And I remember that was the first time that I kind of pushed back against that, like, over what weight? Like, what weight am I supposed to be at? Like, this is how tall I am. These are my curves. So unless magically my body composition and structure changes tomorrow, I'm never going to weigh what you're saying is within a good, healthy weight, right? And I remember that at that time, like, my doctor even said, like, well, everybody's a little bit different, and they kind of started to break down that idea. But if I had not pushed back on that, I would have internalized that and been like, okay, I have to get down to a certain weight, quote unquote, and that never would have brought me any happiness. When I lost weight for like trips that we went on, like, that didn't equal anything. I didn't feel healthier. I didn't feel more, energy, motivated, anything like that. I just could physically see some change, and that was never enough to keep me on said diet, right? Like, I'll never do the Jlo diet again.
Right. And that's kind of like the sustainability part of it, right? Like,
yeah, your
goal was to look a certain way for a specific amount of time. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a lifestyle change.
No.
It was like, we're going to Vegas, we're going to Mexico, like, gotta look good in a bathing suit.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And even within, straight culture versus gay culture, like, I think all cultures have some of this, because I've definitely heard it from all different types of people. I've heard, oh yeah, I have to slim down for this, or, oh, I want to look good for this picture, whatever. But I think until I started really working out and doing things to actually benefit myself, it was always unhealthy. It was never coming from a place of, I want to work out because I want to feel better. It was always about looking better, know? Yeah. And even when I did, like I said, I look back at pictures and I'm like, I was really thin. Like, what was my problem? Yeah. It wasn't until now that I'm like, there's still days that I don't feel the best, but I still know in the back of my mind that the thinness that, a lot of people try to, that's their goal, whatever, and they try to reach, it was just never something that was going to apply to me in a healthy way. It like, they can't coexist. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. What about you?
Same. all the same things, basically,
Yeah.
And
But did you ever fall into any diet culture? Not like in your adult life, but did you like, do you remember that? Because in recent years, I've heard about people now feeling comfortable talking about their experience in their high school years. And I was like, wow, I'm so thankful that that was never my family. Like all my sisters, we're all big girls, we all are very
right.
curvy, but that was never something, at least from my experience, that I felt like was being pushed in my house.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it wasn't like my family was like, finish your plate, like finish your plate. And I think like there's like some deep down psychological stuff because now I'm like, I definitely have been a binge eater. Like I'm an emotional eater. Like I definitely use food in some ways. Like I don't have 100% healthy habits. I'm at a point where I can recognize that and I'm still working on it. And I think most people probably are. But I definitely, I had terrible habits, and looking back now, I'm like, man, I was trying to be thinner than I was, even though I was thinner than I am now, and so I don't know. I definitely like kind of all to the same points that you said. Like I did like how my body looked. I liked my curves, but it was because other people were telling me they looked good. And so I was like, okay, these look good. So I just looking back, I definitely had the same mentality, and I wasn't going about it a healthy way. But when I was working out pretty regularly and eating better, I think I was in a better place mentally. So I can recognize that there were benefits of it that served me well.
Yes.
And I am not good at like keeping consistent with those, but I know those are things that are beneficial in other ways. Like I try not to use that mentality because I want to be thinner. I try to use that mentality to think about how it helps my mental health, how it makes me feel more energetic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think it's really easy to fall into some of the diet culture craze of the time. It is easy because it seems like for example, before we went on a trip, if I were just eating healthier and I just felt better, like that was a good thing. So if, for instance, I saw some diet craze that was happening, for me, it would be like, well, I'm already kind of on this healthy kick. Why not just kick it up a notch? Why not just like try something a little bit tougher or something? When in reality, that's not the same, right? It's not the same as adding more weight at the gym because you've gotten to a plateau, like, oh, I've been doing this for 2 weeks. Like maybe now I can add an extra weight or I can do an extra set of reps. Like it's not the same thing because food is nutritional to you. And so when I did that Jlo diet and cut out carbs and sugar, cutting out sugar did not help me. Like it didn't help me. It actually like did the opposite, because then in my coffee, I was just drinking like black coffee. That means that I'm drinking a lot more of just caffeine, which is not good for me because it made me really jittery. Like I need some of that almond milk or sugar or whatever I put into it to, kind of balance out like those levels, right? Because you burn off sugar quicker than caffeine. And so like I think in my mind I had to realize like it's not the same. It's not the same as like if I'm doing yoga and now I can do a better stretch. Like it's not the same with food, because food is consistently needed to give your body nutrients. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same. So that was something I had to really realize, like my diet is just what I eat. And sometimes my diet isn't as good and sometimes it's not as good. But saying I'm on a diet is like not healthy, because you're always going to eat something. It's just, it could be a little bit more negatively impacting or a little bit more positively impacting, but you don't need to be on a diet, right? Like incorporating things into my life is just a little bit better of a perspective for me.
Right. And that is a healthier perspective to have. And we're not here to knock people who have, like changed their relationship with food and, lost weight, whether it's for health reasons, personal reasons, whatever. It's all just so subjective. I think the point we're trying to make here is that diet culture and the pressures of outside influences
Right.
really like weighing on you,
Mm-hmm.
that's what needs to go, right?
Yes.
Like this
Right.
all needs to be for you.
Mm-hmm.
Your health, your mental health, your physical health, your
Mm-hmm.
relationship with food, it's all personal.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the shows that I really like on Netflix called Ugly Delicious, the chef on the show, David Chang, he gave this really great analogy that I've like, it's stuck with me since I saw it. And so he said that like, he started meditating, right? Like he really wanted to get into meditation because he is a really anxious person and he just really wanted to try something natural, holistic to like, ease his nerves. But what he realized is that since he lives such a busy lifestyle, he wasn't able to commit to the meditation like routine that he had for himself, so much so that it was giving him more anxiety, worrying about going to meditate for a certain amount of time. Like it was doing less good for his life because he wasn't able to commit to it. And so that's really something that I think about all the time when it comes to, dieting or working out more. Like if I feel so bad about myself because I wasn't able to get to the gym 3-4 times this week, so much so that I end up not going more because I feel bad and now I'm like depressed about it. I mean, seriously, like it's like, what good does that do anyone? It certainly doesn't do me any good because I'm just further, sending myself in this spiral. Whereas if I just say, you know what, I wasn't able to make it to the gym this week, but like I can try it for tomorrow. And like if I make it once, that's one more time than I did it last week. Like that's really where I am. And again, I'm not saying I could use a little bit more structure, like don't get me wrong. But at the same time, nothing is going to be lost, Like if I ate drive-through 3 times last week, okay, well, hopefully if I only go once this week, that's improvement. Like that's okay. It doesn't always have to be this upward trajectory of every week I'm eating better than the last. Like, no, I want some food that's quote unquote bad food sometimes, like I don't care. I don't think it's bad food either. I don't call it that, like
Right.
it might feel bad in my stomach later, but that's like my business,
Yeah, please don't share that on the podcast. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's move on. The next thing I found was an article from the New York Times. So it was a guest essay in their opinion section, and it was called Diet Culture is Unhealthy. It's also immoral. And it was written by Kate Mann. She's an academic philosopher and she's an author. She has 2 books. And it was really interesting. It was a great read. Again, plug to our links in the show notes, but it was good. If you guys are interested, definitely check it out. And I just pulled out a couple pieces that I thought were interesting and related most to what we're talking about today. And so she says in one part that I recognize the relationship between fatness and health is far from straightforward. Many fat people are healthy and many thin people are not. That the correlation between being fat and having certain diseases is complex and generally mediated by other risk factors, including poverty and the social stigma that keeps fat people from getting health care they deserve. So this is going to more of a social point of view of the situation, but that's definitely part of it, right? Diet culture is an outside perspective.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Honestly, if you ever find yourself comparing what you're doing or what regular people are doing to what celebrities are doing, you're probably already off on the wrong track because we don't live the same lives. We don't have access to the same resources. Yeah. And it's just completely different. Like I was saying, like as someone who needs energy to work in high schools all day is not going to be the same as someone who, may be able to do this diet completely away from society, right? And be able to go to a counselor and go to a mental health specialist and keep themselves on this track. Like it's just completely
right
different.
And have a private chef who can
and
make
have
them
a private
delicious
chef.
like expensive healthy meals that keep them on track, and a personal trainer.
Exactly. Right, exactly. Being a vegan on a teacher salary versus being a vegan, as a millionaire are 2 very different things. You know what I mean? I could eat potatoes all day and technically that's vegan, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to get the results that, some rich vegan gets, and I'm not saying like, again, accessibility is a huge issue. And we could literally have a whole podcast on it because accessibility really impacts everything that you eat, right? Like as I was growing up, the closest food places were fast food. They were not, like grocery stores and stuff like that.
Right. All organic, natural produce, non-GMO, like
right.
We didn't have that kind of money.
right. Yeah, exactly. That was not what my mom was buying for a family of 6 people, plus, right? Sometimes we were feeding more people than that, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so that's just not realistic. And so that's why I think it's really important to just recognize it doesn't mean that you can't try it for yourself. It doesn't mean that it's not going to work. But, again, just take pause. Like we always say, it's really important to check your privilege. Realize that like, if you are in a position to have a strict diet and that's something that, you want to do for yourself, great, but do not impose that on other people. Like that is something that I will never get over. I've been to people, to restaurants with people like, no, we can't get that appetizer. Like it's got too much calories. Like I'm not counting them. So like, this isn't fair to me. I don't want to just get the veggie sticks. Like I want all of the sides with the dip,
Right. With the dip.
With the dip.
New t-shirt with the dip.
With the dip. Exactly. I want all of it with the dip.
Jose will love that. Jose, here's a tidbit on Jose, guys. A little insight to the Jose psyche. He loves a good sauce. Like he'll take some fries with his ketchup. You know what I mean? He loves the sauce. He loves
the sauce. Exactly. He taught me about all things sauce, I never knew.
He's a connoisseur.
He is. He's an expert of sauces.
Yes, yeah.
He's also gay, so you can take that as you will.
Yeah. In every which way. Anyway. All right. So another quote I pulled out, she says, I have long admired the work of fat activists, and then she names a few. So Marilyn Wan, Sonia Renee Taylor, and Aubrey Gordon among them, and recognize that fat bodies can be not only healthy, but also athletic, beautiful, and sexy. I believe in the concepts of intuitive eating and healthy at any size, at least for other people. And just to give a little context, she starts out this article by saying that her 2-year-old daughter was obsessed with her belly button. And so she would pull up her shirt and point at her belly button. And she was so cute. But when she tried to do it to her mom, who is the author here, she felt uncomfortable. She was sucking her stomach in, feeling uncomfortable with her body. Again, this was a good read. It was just very long, so we only pulled out tidbits. Yeah. So she goes on to say, I recognize that the vast majority of diets fail to make people any thinner or any healthier in the long term. I recognize that even if you are a fat person who would be healthier if you lost weight, you don't owe it to anyone to do so. You don't owe it to anyone to be healthy in general. And I know how much my internalized fat phobia owes to oppressive patriarchal forces. The forces that tell girls and women in particular to be small, meek, slight, slim, and quiet. Yeah.
Period.
Literally, it ends with a period. So I'm glad Ryann brought this up at the beginning because I did include this because that's true. Where does all of this mentality come from? Right? Like, where is this stemming from in our society? This is coming from however long ago, and we didn't even do the history because I was assuming that this has just always been the case. And I know in different cultures, larger people have been seen as more wealthy, more prosperous. And so I know there are some examples, but talking about right now, talking to our millennials in 2022 who are feeling this pressure, this is where it's coming from, especially for women or just anyone who's not like a white man.
I know.
Right? Like,
yeah. No, exactly. And that's the thing, right? Like, I've always found that so interesting that, white men can walk around with beer bellies and like call the shots, Right. And again, I reject it every time. I mean, it's hilarious, but at the same time, you do have to realize like, it's nobody else's responsibility but yours. If you feel that your body, is fine or whatever, like be fine or whatever, like continue with your life, don't feel the need to like buy into this, right? Because let's be real, also, like capitalism, people make a lot of money off of diet culture books and diet culture recipes, and seeing your dietitian and all these things. Not saying they can't be beneficial, I'm just saying it is a market just like everything else, right? Somebody's going to benefit off of it, and most of the time it's not you, it's not the consumer. And so if that's the case, if we know that we are the consumer, like be picky about what you want, right? Because if your goal is to just be thin, you can probably accomplish that on your own, and I'm not saying whether that's good or bad is completely up to you. Like I always say, I don't really care about what's good or bad. But if it's having more of a negative impact on the way that I move through society, it just can't be worth it. Like that cannot be worth it, because again, it's usually not even sustainable. The only times that I remember actually losing a significant amount of weight quickly never stuck. It never was something that I continued, because it took everything out of me to be able to achieve it, and I don't regret it. It showed me a lot about myself, it did. But at the same time, I just think, I'm thankful that wasn't my thoughts early on. I'm thankful that I didn't grow up with like this complex, because that takes a lot of time to get away from and detach yourself from.
Right.
But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I wasn't buying into this in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It took trial and a lot of error to realize I don't need any of this. If I'm going to gain weight or lose weight, there's a lot of factors, first of all, that have, an effect on that. And, the people around me, if they have a problem with it, I mean, they're probably not going to be around me for much longer, but also to reject it. I've heard things from family members. Oh yeah. Like you gained weight, or like, oh, did it, like, yeah, comments are said. I'm not saying that everybody in my, my life is just like super supportive of like, my weight gain, but I am saying that I push against it. Like, why does it matter? Do you have to buy the pants that I now wear? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Is it weighing on you? No,
right.
Move on. Like move
on.
To the next thing. Yeah. It's just a talking point. Like,
right. No, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So next question for us. So, and we probably already covered this a little bit, but just to ask, how do we think of our own body image now?
You want to go first?
Sure. So I mean, I think I kind of covered this on how I try and think of my weight now. Like I try to think of the benefits for me mentally, like the health benefits. Like I'm probably at my highest weight right now, but my lifestyle of like working from home, I live a more sedentary life. And so, when I was working in retail, I was up and around and moving. I was working at a bridal shop, so I was carrying heavy ass dresses every day. Like I was looking a lot more snatched, you know what I mean? And so like my lifestyle has changed. And so the habits that I had when I was, 23 are not going to benefit me as much as, at 31. But those are lifestyle shifts that I have to make. And so I try and tell myself like positive things about my body. I'm grateful that, I put it through a lot. Like we had a really good time in our 20s. Yeah. So like, I'm grateful that, my body functions and works the way it does. I really am. But, if I think about the way I eat, like, the lifestyle I live, I try and think of it more in those terms of like what benefits me now.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I do need to be more active, and I need to do that for my mental health. There are definitely benefits for that. And so I just try and look at it in different terms, like as far as eating dairy, I try not to eat a ton of dairy because I am acne prone. Like there are other things that are impacted than just my weight. And so I try and look at my body as a whole. And when I eat something, I still eat chili cheese fries. Like, I'm not saying that I'm just like, I've got it all worked out. No, I do, but not like every other day like I did in high school.
Right.
Like Del Taco was the closest to our high school, and it was like the only thing we had to do when we were 16. So
Right.
that's what we did.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, just being more mindful.
Right.
Being more mindful and being nicer to myself.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll go.
Yeah. What about you?
I know. So yeah, I think it's a mixture of what you said. For me, with like food and stuff, I just love food. We talk about it all the time. I love food. I love trying new things, new variations of the same types of food that I like.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always kind of like a cost benefit analysis. Like, is this new food worth, the carbs, fat, sugar, whatever, right? And I will say, like, it does help me somewhat because I am in that way, I'm analytical, where it's like, I'm not just going to eat a cupcake just because like there's something sweet to eat. Like, I don't like anything, or all things I'm saying. So for me, that does kind of help because I haven't always been prone to just like eating just whatever carbs or sugar there is. However, the ones that are worth it for me, if they're available, like, yeah, I'm going to have them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I do like those things. So I'd say that like my body image, I am also trying to be realistic, like you said, with the way that I'm living my life. When I was, working a full day, walking around all day, and then working out versus switching to working from home, I'm just not doing the same things. And so there's no reason to compare, which at first I was like, okay,
oh, yeah. Right.
I used to compare, like, okay, I used to, walk 15,000 steps a day. So that means after working from home, I need to go walk 15,000 steps a day, like to make up for what I used to do. That's not realistic because the time in the day is just not spent the same.
Right.
No point in trying to make it up. I spent a lot of months being really sad at the beginning of the pandemic for multiple reasons, as we all were.
Yeah.
But one of them was because I felt my lifestyle change. I felt my body change. I felt my stamina go down. I felt my energy levels go down. And that was really like a hit for me. And so now I have to realize I do different work. I'm a different age. I don't do the same things. I used to miss a lot of meals, not on purpose, because I was hungover. I'm just not doing those same things anymore.
Right.
My life is completely different. And again, for the better, like that's a benefit. The benefit is that I'm not wasting away days on a couch, drinking a Pepsi and eating 5 fries because I feel horrible. I'm eating a full meal all day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's just a different perspective. And I did have to do that. And I have to constantly remind myself of that. It's not easy, but I like yoga. Yoga does not require strenuous activity. I'm very flexible. I like that about myself. And it doesn't require me having to lose, quote unquote, lose all the weight off my body to achieve that. And so that's why I think for me, I do like the gym for some reasons. Like I actually kind of like the mental break of it all because I am taking a mental break,
Yeah.
but it can't be this weight on me every day. It's something that I can do when I feel up to it, and I do like to have a buddy, to push me, but that's about it. Like I've moved into like body neutrality, which is basically some days I feel great about my body. Some days I really look in the mirror and I'm like, you're that bitch, and then some days I look in the mirror and I'm like, I mean, you're that bitch, but like,
Right.
just like,
though, still give yourself, because that mental talk, like, my therapist says, she's like, I can hear that tape playing. You've got to interrupt the tape because you are just, putting yourself back into that negative cycle.
Right. Yes.
You have to be intentional about breaking the like negative talk in your head.
Yes. No, exactly. That's a great way to put it. Shout out to therapists.
Love her.
I know. So should we take a break?
Okay. So the last thing I did research on was social media and diet culture. And let me just say that it was really hard to find like big outlets that were talking about this, like things like beauty magazines or like, I don't know, like where we would get a lot of content, right? then I realized like these outlets are, I mean, one of their main sources is like telling people how to get a better body, quote unquote, better body.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead.
And it changes with the times, right? Like what the ideal body was 15 years ago, right? What the standard of beauty was versus what it is now. The tabloids and the magazines, they change with that. You can kind of track what is being pushed right now. I'm sure if you were to look at, a lot of outlets about like what diets to push, it would be, workouts to get you a better butt, workouts to get you a flat stomach, right? How to accentuate your curves, right? Your curves. And growing up, like that was not the standard of beauty. It was very thin, right? It was low-rise jeans. It was being able to show your thong. Yeah. Things that looked horrid on me. Like when I finally found high-rise jeans, I was just like, I'm seen. Like that. This is my body. I'm finally able to wear jeans that look good on me, right?
Yeah.
But that came from inward. Like I had to want to seek out what looked good and felt good for my body.
Yeah.
Because that was not what was being pushed, right? And it still really isn't. Like even though curvy bodies are in style, it's curves in the quote unquote right places, right? Like my stomach curve isn't what, is out and popular. I mean,
right, exactly. Like have a big ass, but like here's how to hide like your tummy. Like,
yes,
yeah, no, that's really true. And like this article came from NPR because I couldn't really find anything else. Like I was telling Ryann before, most things that I was finding were like college dissertations on how social media and diet culture, are in play. And so yeah, so it's ingrained, man. It's everywhere. And like, we're kind of comparing to celebrities, but like, damn, if we're feeling like this, like if you are someone who is on the cover of these tabloids and magazines, like no wonder you want to lose 50 pounds. They're gonna like flash a huge picture and like say how terrible you look. Right. And then they're going to put it out there for people to judge, people who are probably dealing with their own body image. Like the cycle is like deep.
Right, exactly. And even though we kind of touched on the way that, it comes from like patriarchal views in a very male dominated society, men also have very toxic views of, body image as well. It doesn't stop at women. I definitely know a lot of male friends that have serious body image issues, and it's even more secretive because it's something that they're quote unquote not supposed to care about, right? Or, like they're supposed to figure out themselves, which just adds to the toxicity, right? Yeah. The fact that me and my partner have a very open conversation about our body image all the time, it helps me not feel alone, but it also shows me that no one is, outside of the reach of like these unhealthy body image standards. Like everyone is going to be impacted. And the more that you're aware of it, the better that you can, figure it out for yourself.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So in this NPR article, they talk about how to examine fat phobia, and it gives us 3 different levels to look at this. So the first one is on an intrapersonal level. So think about how diet culture makes you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror or when you're scrolling through social media. So diet culture messaging can be seen in before and after transformation photos or in all the posts talking about food as though it's somehow virtuous, right? So kind of a callback to like the good versus bad. And if your feed is making you feel bad about your body, it's time to check in with yourself. And they posed a few questions, right? So what is causing me to feel this way about my body right now? Is my body that different from what it was yesterday? What external factors are impacting my feelings? And what choices do I have in terms of how much I want to respond to them?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a choice. It's a conscious choice that you have to decide for yourself. Am I going to let this affect me? And if it already affected me, how can I undo that? Right? Like, how can I let that go?
Yeah.
I have unfollowed so many. I pretty much don't follow most celebrities. Like, even just like there's a few drag queens that I follow. There's a few people here and there, but for the most part, like, I really don't, because it was just giving me this weird view of reality that just didn't fit with what I know to be true. Because it's something as simple as like posting pictures after somebody's pregnant, right? Like, oh, like, look at me now, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it just wasn't healthy. I realized that following a lot of these people, if I feel like I can't relate to you on like a real level, I just felt like I didn't need to follow them. And that goes for politicians. That goes for a lot of people. Like, it was creating this everyday cycle of like, I'm almost like annoyed to go through my feed, right? Like, I'm
Right.
scrolling through just like, here we go again, so and so, and it's like, I don't need to subject myself to that. Like, and also like, just why, like,
Right.
what is it doing? It's not doing anything for me. So,
Right. That's true. And I thought you brought up a good point that we do curate our social media,
mm-hmm,
right? Like the algorithm will show you things that are related to things you're already looking at.
mm-hmm,
So we should be making a conscious effort. If something is making you feel bad every time you see it,
mm-hmm,
then take pause, like take a minute and step
mm-hmm,
back and be like, why is this making me feel bad? Bad
mm-hmm.
about myself, bad about the way I look, the way I feel.
Right.
Then delete it, get rid of it. You
Right.
don't deserve to feel
Exactly.
like that. Like,
Yeah.
get rid of
Exactly.
it.
Right, exactly. There's even people that, might look more like my body type that I don't follow, because we just don't have access to the same type of clothing options, right? I don't have access to a personal, designer that's going to make things fit to my body. Like, so even things like that, it's not to say that you shouldn't follow these people. It's just to say that if it's not benefiting you, you know, even if it's like someone that you have known for a long time, like, if something about their presence on your feed has you in conflict, it might not be worth worth, the
The
follow.
follow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. All right. So the next way to look at it is through an interpersonal level. So, how other people treat us. To spot diet culture in this realm, they say to listen for value judgments of food or bodies. So that could look like judgment at the gym, being lauded for avoiding some guilty pleasure desserts, or a storyline on TV where the hero loses weight and suddenly gains popularity and acceptance.
Mm.
Right?
Ooh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that
I know, right?
one.
Like, it's true. It is all around us, right? And like, but being conscious and aware of it. If someone blatantly makes a comment, like someone you know or someone you're around, you would definitely like, like, excuse me. But
Mm-hmm.
that's true. Like thinking about like a TV show, like The Biggest Loser.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's a reality show, but like anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
all it's all playing a part.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So the third one is institutional fat phobia, or the ease in which you can or cannot navigate society because of the way you look.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, weight discrimination is legal in 49 of 50 states and is commonplace from education to healthcare to the workplace. Does
Sorry,
that
say
make
that
sense?
again. Yeah, say that again. What about 50 states?
Okay. Okay. So, weight discrimination is
Mm.
legal in 49 of 50 states and is commonplace in education, healthcare, even to the workplace.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times when I was a recruiter, so like when people would come in for interviews, just the immediate perception of bigger people versus thinner people in the workplace, right? Like, oh, where are they going to sit? Or like, oh, are they going to be able to do things efficiently, as if like their mental state was just deteriorating because they were bigger. you know, and a lot of those comments are not talked about. They're not addressed, right? They're just kind of allowed to go by because the standard is to be thinner, and to be thinner, that must mean that you're healthier, or you're just, you know, you're more in touch with your body, right? Like all these things that are not true. They're not true. But yeah, I've definitely seen it happen for sure. And just feeling bad about myself. Like if I don't fit into the same outfit that I fit in when I applied for the last job, right? Like, oh, like, you know, I'm not taking care of myself, which is just not true. Like, that's just not true.
Right. And kind of going back to like how I used to think of my body image, like I always used to feel like the big friend of my friend group.
Yeah.
Like I always felt like that. And I always thought other people saw me that way.
Ooh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also like taking up space, right? Like feeling bad for showing up as yourself.
Right. Exactly. Like what bullshit.
Right.
That sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
What a waste of a lot of time.
Oh my gosh. Snaps to that. Seriously. Yeah. Wasting so much time feeling like, yeah, I'm taking up too much space. I'm, you know, attracting attention. Look, if I'm going to attract attention, it's because I'm a fucking awesome person. Let's just be real here. Like if people, I mean, I think we can really like say that, like we have been in a lot of spaces with a lot of people that were quote unquote, you know, more beauty standard looking.
Yeah.
But we have an energy that attracts people. And I do at one point remember thinking that was, I'm only getting this attention because like I'm a bigger person, you know, like I'm only getting this attention because people can't not look at me, right? Because you know what I mean? I'm taking up too much space. That's super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it goes on to say that diet culture creates barriers to access for fat people everywhere. For example, you might consider basic accommodations like chairs or doorways or seatbelts as value neutral, but that only shows us how much diet culture has influenced the design of our world.
Wow.
And that is so true. I used to feel so bad when I would go on an airplane and I would have to adjust the seatbelt because I have big thighs.
Yep.
And I would like see the person next to me, like little, like, oop. And I'm like, oh, you know, pulling it out. Oh, gotta stretch it out, you know?
That's so true. Even in cars, I remember, like, well, the airplane is a great example. I remember one of the last flights that I was on with a girl, and we just both had really large hips, you know, like it just is what it is. And she immediately, like, sorry, you know, she like whispered to the
flight
attendant. She like whispered, like, can I have the extender? You know, like and again, she's doing this to just kind of get ahead of it, right? Like she doesn't want to feel embarrassed, and I get it. And I just kept telling her, like, it's fine. Like we're both here, you know, we're both like spilling into each other's seats. Like,
right.
It is what it is, you know, like that's
and
no fault of yours.
Right. And that's not even like at least like, and not to say like, at least you were together, but like, I hate when I sit in like the airplane seat that is like made for someone whose like ass is like 10 inches. I don't even know how tiny those seats are. They're literally making them smaller by the day. Like I don't know what they'll do next. But like, and yeah, I'm like, I just have big hips. Like, I'm sorry. So like they don't fit here. I didn't make the seat.
Right.
Like, sorry.
Yeah. But you're made to feel like it's your responsibility, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's not good.
It's not good.
It's not good. So to wrap it up, what can we do? What can we do about this? What can we do? All right. So first one, words matter. Be intentional with the language you use and the commentary you'll accept. So this is one calling back to that internal self-talk. Like, don't be an asshole to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, but be conscientious of others as well. Like fat phobia, like institutional fat phobia, those things are societal. Like we have to break those down. You know, I don't know if we can change airplane seats, but like, let's all say we don't like them. Let's all say we need a little more room.
Yeah.
And first class is fucking expensive. So
bullshit.
Yeah. So Anyway, words matter. The next one, heal your relationship with food through intuitive eating. So intuitive eating is basically listening to your body.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need? Like just taking a moment and being mindful. I mean, we've said mindful a couple of times, but like I said, I've binged eat. I still binge eat sometimes. Like I am an emotional eater, but like thinking and being more mindful of like why I'm eating, what is this benefiting, like, and not like beating myself up if I have like an ice cream bar.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
okay. I like
That's
ice
okay.
cream.
Right.
I like ice cream.
Exactly. And the more that you allow it naturally, you kind of avoid the binge eating somewhat, right? Because if you just allow it to happen a little bit, maybe it won't pile up and you feel, you know what I mean? And you feel so anxious that you end up eating so much. Like it might
Right.
help other issues as well. Not always. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I do know for myself, if I allow myself to just kind of mess up every once in a while, and again, I'm not saying mess up like I can never eat bad food, but if I binge eat or, if I feel too full at night and I wake up feeling groggy, like it's okay. I did it. Like we're moving on. My body is still, I'm very thankful for it. It's still running and like it's here for another day. Like I can, make the improvement if I want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last one, befriend your body. So be honest. Would you treat your bestie the way you currently treat your body?
Ooh.
Would you ever tell your good friend they weren't good enough for not looking like a model, or get angry at them if they got tired and couldn't finish a morning run?
Oh, that's a
Which
really
is
good one.
true, right?
Yeah.
It's perspective.
Yeah. That's
My
therapy.
therapist literally does this for me every other week,
Yeah.
like I'll just be so down and she's like, let's take a look at this whole picture,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's therapy 101.
Yeah.
Would you say this to your best friend? Like the negative thoughts that you give yourself, would you give that to your best friend? And if your best friend was experiencing these negative thoughts, what would you tell them? And tell that
Right.
to yourself. It's very effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Your body is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Treat it like it.
Yes.
And so, big question, are we doing this wrong?
Yeah, I think it comes and goes. I
Yeah.
think for a time I feel good about the fact that I'm okay. My diet is what it is. And then I kind of get into these, like episodes where I feel really down, on my body. And so it comes in waves. Yes, I've definitely done it wrong, i.e. Jlo Diet, never doing that again. And I have to remind myself that I don't need to do it again, right? Because again, for the results that I wanted at the time, I thought it was effective,
Right.
So thinking back, I'm like, but I did lose pounds.
Yeah.
That wasn't worth it. It was not worth the 2 weeks of agony. And then the weeks after that, feeling bad for not keeping that diet up. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't worth it. I did it wrong. And I'm going to try to do it better in the future.
Right. Yeah. Just try to do it better, or at least take these tools, try and be nicer to yourself. Try intuitive eating, look more into that. Don't beat yourself up if you do quote unquote indulge, which, restricting yourself can lead to like binge eating or eating tons of quote like bad food.
Right.
Whatever the case is. So it's a lot of mental there too, and be nice to your body, be friends.
Yes. Love that.
Yeah. It's a struggle for everyone. And I think just being mindful, like being conscientious is all that we can do.
Right.
Like I'm sitting here saying fat phobia needs to go, but like I do feel like my body is bigger now, and and I'm trying to think of being healthier in a different perspective than when I was younger and just wanted to be thin so that I would see myself as like attractive.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That was not a healthy way to look at it.
True. Very good point. Yeah, exactly. Not allowing your mental health to take a decline just because you want your physical health to look better, right, on the outside.
Right. I want to be working on everything all together.
Yes.
So balance, looking for balance. My therapist also says that I'm bad at balance, but I'm working on it. And just as a last note, if you are struggling, please check out the research. There were a lot of resources available. We did talk about disordered eating, having a unhealthy relationship with food can manifest in a lot of different ways. And so there are resources out there, guys. So if you are feeling like you're struggling and it's more than just, oh, I can't stay on keto, if it's really something that you feel like you could maybe talk to someone about, then please do. Like, I don't know how many times we brought up therapy in this episode, but we will shout it from the rooftops. We love it. It's a great tool and it's out there for you, So check out our going to therapy episode if you'd like more resources.
Yes, very good.
And on that note, that wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode. Thank you so much to our amazing interpreters for joining us. You guys are amazing. Love it. Love it. Check us out on YouTube for the visual conversation. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wrong the Podcast. Come join the conversation. And if you have a story, and if you have a story to share, please send it to wrongthepodcast@gmail.com and let us know if you want us to share it here. Yeah. We're happy to do so.
That'd be great. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will see you next week for the next episode.
All right. Bye.
Bye.